Yeah, it was Echo, you remember? He fell in love, or she fell in love with him, but he spurned her, and so she pined and pined. We get this idea of the echo, yeah. The next point that I'm going to read, can you hear that all right? The voice seems to, it's like a bird trying to fly along. The next poem really is also a kind of celebratory poem. I don't write too many of those. This is by way of being an epithalamium, and that's a kind of wedding poem traditionally, and it was made originally to be sung outside the bridal chamber. So I wrote one for an occasion. And it's called Bride with Beautiful Feet. And I have to say that someone's noticed that I write about feet a lot, but I don't, as far as I know, have a foot fetish. And I don't own a lot of shoes either. Anyway, this is called Bride with Beautiful Feet. Under a sudden sunfall of bright that strikes the dark in waiting, we look to sing one pleasure or another, trying to understand the way we come to each other, to let loose words in their looking, whose language is telling what story ours, a right kind of adventure, waiting for some goddess or other dear Sappho to arrive on a rill of wind, to take your ease, to lean back, to shout the world the right place, for love to come calling on the wings of pretty sparrows. In all the right places, the right touch to take with great style the pleasures of your company. Water in one hand, fire in the other, we sing you to make the far more near, and the more love's longing. Some die without it. But look, you are sunlight among flowers, such a bride with pretty feet. We make the air be music with your name. That's a cue for the band, the quartet to start playing, who weren't there. I just thought I'd write them in just in case. Yeah. Yeah, the mood changes a little bit here. This is called a poem called Heavy Traffic in the Dark. You know, a good many things go around in the dark besides Santa Claus. And you could say that there's a fair amount of heavy traffic in the dark, often. And I guess the poem really wants to look at, sometimes we forget how to look at who we really are. And it can be quite depressing for some people. Anyway, it's called Heavy Traffic in the Dark. When I woke, I was looking for a sign. Something you said about how hard it was to get anywhere when words refused to dream again. Birds were falling from the sky like songs called home to think it over. Maybe we were, too. That old story, the one we keep repeating when death calls round, looking for a one-night stand. The question mark in the corner of your eye, and the single gold leaf at graveside, like the outstretched hand of a stranger shaking hands with the air. I thought it was going to snow forever. Already there was too much heavy traffic in the dark. That solo black hearse humming quietly to itself, and that pale green bird flying from headstone to headstone in search of a cage. Very dark. Right, yeah, so maybe this is a bit lighter. This is an anecdotal poem. Doesn't make it any less poem. but nonetheless it comes out of an anecdote. I was at a reading, I think it was in Venezuela, and there was a very fine Russian poet. We were reading on the same bill, and it was a succession of absolutely splendidly impressive poets, women poets who came up to read. And this poet, Jekyll was his name, he was dazzled by all this. And he said something about that, well, he could eat them with his eyes. And I thought, yes, how the eye is most erotic. So I thought I would write a poem about how the eye is it's a very erotic organ. And it's based upon a true story which was told to me. It goes like this. Anecdotal Aesthetics in Athens. In the health studio, Madame Nina serves thimble cups of thick, dark Turkish, smokes endless fags, papastratos numero ena. She talks non-stop, a solo hour on no less than the aesthetic value of a lady's figure. To a man, how dear hearts we undress before dinner. At 5:30, the witching hour, she flicks down the light, she waves her arms, and twirling around the room like an aeroplane about to take off, she lifts her skirts to bare her arse, and she says, "Isn't it beautiful, my dears, really? I made it with my own hands, and you know how the eye is most erotico." True story.